Okay. Oh.
Oh, welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Barriers. I'm Safrianna Luna, and as always, delighted to be joined by my dear friend Red Moon Eagle. Today, we're going to be talking about our foundational gifts, which for short we're calling the 3 E's. So today, you'll learn the basics of what the 3 E's are, why they're important, and why we need to know this information in order to have better, healthier relationships and connections. So, Red, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself.
My name is Red Moon Eagle. I'm a psychic catalyst teacher healer. And as was recently pointed out to me, apparently this is my work. Like, this is one of the big my work things. I'd never thought of it that way, but I will own that if it makes anybody feel comfortable.
Yes, it's very important work. It has definitely changed the way that I've seen how people work and interrelate. And I think it's really important for people to understand the basics so that they're not going in with some of the assumptions that we might have on how people understand one another. So before we dive in, just in case you don't know me, I'm Safrianna Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a licensed trauma therapist, a transformational mentor, author, speaker, and CEO. And I'm super multi-passionate, which is why I have a bajillion podcasts.
I love the bajillion podcasts.
Well, thanks. I love it most days. So let's dive into the 3 E's just to give some language to start with. What the 3 E's are is empathy, energy sensitivity, and earth sense. So, Red, why is it important that people start to understand these three particular things?
Well, there's two things about why it's important. Two top things. One, we use this language so flippantly in our world that we have convoluted it. We've created misconceptions. We've created expectations and biases and misunderstand at our foundation of even understanding what gifts are. And the second reason is that when you don't feel shame, fear, disappointment about what your gifts are, you're able to lean into them with love and light and self-confidence, and you know where you are, so that you can have better relationships, you can move in the world with confidence and light and love. And both of those things helps us all as a world be better. So leads to the third thing.
Yeah, the world being better is definitely needed right now. And as somebody who has felt deeply misunderstood in my life, I think that learning about these foundational gifts helped me understand where some of those misunderstandings come in.
Yeah.
So, at its core, these gifts essentially source information about what's happening in other people.
Mm-hmm.
So literally I love the question that you asked because I've been trying to drill this in my head for when I'm having conversations about this of like when you walk in a room and you can tell someone's angry, how do you know?
How do you know that?
How
How
do
do
you
you
know
know
that?
that? And empaths always give themselves away by, I can feel their emotion. I know that they're angry. I become angry. Well, that's an empathic answer. Like, no energy sensitive will ever answer that question that way, ever.
Mhm.
An energy sensitive will say, well, there's a vibe. Like, I can kind of feel that there's something. And sometimes they'll use words like spiky or sharp or I'm uncomfortable or there's something over there. They'll even describe it like it's kind of like just over there. I know I don't want to go over there, right? Because it has to do with an energy sensitive's connection to that electromagnetic spectrum, that ether, that electromagnetic wave. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a physical scientist. I'm not entirely even certain I'm using the correct words for that. But I will say it is a thing. And an empath doesn't answer the way an energy sensitive does. And an energy sensitive does not answer the way an empath does. But then you have your combos. And that is where it gets really confusing because a combo might say, well, I can feel that they're angry and I also feel uncomfortable in my body and I don't want to go over there, right? So people give themselves away all the time, but there's a foundational either felt sense or emotional knowing. It's how they navigate the world. And in this overview, I just want to point out that I am different than both of those things. I have earth sense first.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew from a very young age that I was different than everybody I knew. And when you go the first 12 years of your life knowing that you are different than everybody else, you start asking questions. You start really diving into, I feel like they said it a certain way. Explain more to me, right? Like, and that's what started this work. I was a child when I started this work because I was different and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't perceive the world like nobody else was.
Right. Yeah. So this is I want to backtrack a little bit. And again, this is the overview episode.
It's just an overview.
We will be doing specific episodes after this, getting into the nuances of
Oh,
each of
yeah.
these. But when we come into this body, we have 1, 2, or 3 of these online. There's 3 to choose from. We get 1, 2, or 3. We get one or a combo. And earth sense, we'll probably get into that one a little bit later, but yes, the earth sense can be someone's only gift, so that's the earth sense first, or it can be layered in with the empathy and the energy sensitivity, or you can have all 3 like me and be a trifecta. But there's some combo that you have, and that is how you uniquely pick up the information, whether you literally can feel someone else's emotions or you feel that static. And what's really interesting is when you talk to just an empath about energy, they don't get it. When you talk to an energy sensitive about emotion, they can get the emotion, but they don't feel the other person's emotion. They're like, okay, well, what this would be like in me.
Yes. There's a very distinct difference in how energy sensitives and empaths feel, to use an empathic word, or vibe, using an energy sensitive word, the information. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say this out loud and clear, in our metaphysical, spiritual, pick a, this is kind of a fringy community, right? There is not a book out there that talks about and honors the energy sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
They only ever talk about it in the sense of how it's connected to empathy. And that is probably the most infuriating thing I have ever encountered in my life. And I'm a little bit on a soapbox about it, I will admit. But because energy sensitives are not honored and seen, their gifts are not honored and seen, and people who do not have energy sensitivity are feeling like they're missing out and being forced to use energy sensitivity vocabulary. And energy sensitives are being forced basically to communicate with empaths, trying to figure out how to use empathic language when they don't have that gift of empathy. So let's look at the definition of empathy, right? If you go into the dictionary, it says that empathy is feeling other people's emotions. It says it in the dictionary. And sympathy is feeling compassion or pity, or like okay, I've broken my leg before, you've broken your leg. I can sympathize with that. I can go, oh my God, I've been there before. But that's not empathy. That is not empathy. And I can have a lot of compassion and care and love for someone. But if you're angry at me, I don't know that you're angry at me. I have absolutely no clue that you're angry unless you say, hey, Red, I'm angry. Now, I know something happened in your energy field. I know something's happening, but I don't know what that is. And empaths will use that and get frustrated with this energy sensitives and go, well, you're just not trying hard enough. Do you know how many times I heard that as a child? You're just not trying hard enough, Red. You're being selfish. And I'm like, pretty sure I'm not being selfish. You got that wrong.
And that's one of the important things about talking about these gifts, because there are light sides and shadow sides to all of these gifts in their own way. And that is definitely, I have energy sensitivity, so I get the energy sensitives and like I get the language and all of that. But I'm imagining I can put myself in the shoes of like, what if I couldn't really pick up what other people were feeling? And then they are expecting that I'm picking up on what they're feeling and I'm totally not. Like, what would the impact of that be? And it causes this like, you're just not very kind. You're just not very compassionate. Like, you are just blowing past my feelings. But they literally, an energy sensitive literally cannot feel your feelings unless you tell them that that's how you're feeling. Yes, they might notice like my spouse is energy sensitive, and they can definitely tell when I power down because my
Mhm.
energy field goes whoa.
Womp. Yep,
And then they're like,
absolutely.
oh, something happened here, but they can't
Mhm.
tell if I powered down because I'm frustrated or sad or angry or whatever. They just feel
Oh,
the whoa.
valid. 100% valid. Being somebody who has absolutely no empathy, even with my earth sense first, I mean, I can tell if a tree is happy, bizarrely, but even my cat, like, I don't know if she's mad, hungry, happy, sad. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But that creates a lot of miscommunication and a lot of missteps.
Hmm.
Um, and there's an assumption that a highly sensitive person, which it's a whole other category that I'm not even sure how to address, that all of them are empathic. And that is not a true statement.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the nuances of them. Again, we're going to be doing an episode where we get really deep, but
Yeah.
let's just kind of do some high level overviews. So let's start with empathy because
Okay.
it is the one that it's probably written about most. And, there's a lot out there, and it is
Mhm.
expected that, like it's even come up in recent conversations, this idea that we can develop the
No,
gift of empathy. We can
no.
develop the human understanding of empathy that's really more
Yes.
like sympathy, but we
Yes.
can't develop the hardware
No,
that is in the body with the gift. So,
no.
empathy, tell us about empathy.
Empaths intrinsically, and it's very interesting because I've talked to so many empaths over the years. And most of the time, unless they're a trifecta or they've kind of got this earth sense booster thing that they've nuanced, or earth sense first are pretty aware of all of it. Um, they have these tendrils, these feelers, tendrils, tentacles. I don't know what you want to call them. I know no, a lot of people don't like the tentacle word. I apologize if that's offensive, but that is how energy sensitives perceive it. So just know that. It's not to be hurtful, not to be shaming, but those tendrils reach out. They navigate the world. It's very much, if you think of like an amoeba with all the little cilia, they're constantly moving, they're constantly reaching out and touching. And if you have a relationship with someone, those tendrils are always kind of like touching the partner, touching this person, because you're navigating the world through that other person's emotions. You're getting
Hmm.
your felt sense of the world through that emotional connection. So it's interesting. I've worked with a few empaths where if they go to a doctor's clinic and they're looking for a pen and a cup, like they won't touch all the pens in the cup. They'll go for the one that is happy. Um, it's funny. I use this all the time. If you have an energy sensitive, if you have a friend come over to your house and you have your favorite cup out on the counter, the empath will go directly to the cup. They will pick it up. They will go, oh, I get this. Such is a wonderful vibe. I just love this cup. Can I borrow this cup? Right? They will touch it. They will have touched it before they touched it with their feelers, right? An energy sensitive will look at the cup on the counter and they won't touch it. They will already sense, feel, know that it has a lot of energy on it. And they're like, I'm looking, can I have a clean cup? Like they won't say it even. They'll just go, that's a pretty cup. Do you have another one? Right? They have this felt sense in the world that is not through feelers. They don't have feelers like empaths do. They have more of a field awareness, like a
Hmm.
vibe awareness. Like there's a I, I there's been a couple books written about ether, and again, I'm not a physical scientist, so I kind of go back and forth and not sure I'm understanding or having the right terms, but there is an awareness that what you think is air between you and I, an energy sensitive knows that that's full of information,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to call that, ether, air, gas, plasma, I don't know. I don't know what the right word is. But there is a felt awareness of how their body is moving in this information packed space.
Hmm.
An empath uses their feelers to navigate in that information-packed space. But a lot of times those empaths don't even know that their feelers are doing what their feelers are doing, which is
Yes.
fascinating.
Well, it's, I was trying to explain some of this to a friend the other day, and as someone with both gifts, I was trying to pull apart how this looks.
Which is
Going through,
hard.
it's hard for me as a trifecta. That's one of the shadow sides of being a trifecta is it's all kind of like this. It's just a conglomerate, and you're like, what's what?
Yeah.
But I see it when I'm using my feelers. It's like I'm tasting other people's emotions, and so I liken that
Yeah.
literally a whale going through the ocean with its teeth that collect the krill. And
Yeah.
I'm literally ooh, that's anger. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
frustration. Ooh, that's sadness. Ooh, I don't want to know what that is. We're going away from that really quick. Because I can literally feel
Yeah.
what's around me. And so if the feelings aren't good feelings, I'm not going to want to be there because I'm going to get my emotional tummy ache and I'm going to feel really like gross. Versus the energy sensitive going through a space is almost like this giant diffusive bubble around them, like their auric field, what that
Yeah.
can touch, maybe a little beyond that, the electromagnetic field of the heart, which
Yeah.
goes out at least 6 to 7 feet. So
Mhm.
anything in that space is going to be picked up on in a
Oh, yeah.
diffused way. So it's
Yeah.
either high vibe, low vibe, good vibe, not so good vibe. Like it's going to have that vibrational,
Yeah.
energetic quality rather than a specific emotional quality.
Something to note about children, and I want to say this as succinctly as I know how, which is it's kind of like your bio number, like you're born with your bio number, you're born with your gifts. An empathic child will say something like, "Hey, mommy, you're sad." They do not say, "Hey, mommy, are you sad?" An energy sensitive child will say, "Mommy, are you sad? Dad, are you sad? Sister, brother, are you happy? Are you sad?" They will ask an "are you" question.
Mm-hmm.
An empathic does not ask an "are you" question. They say, "Mommy, you're sad. Daddy, you're upset. Sister's angry," right?
Mm-hmm.
They make this statement. If they do not get a valid feedback, like mommy goes, "I'm not sad, darling. Don't you worry about it. Everything's fine." That empathic child begins to not trust their feeler inputs. Then, on top of that, should you have an empathic child that the parent or the sister or the brother, anybody in that close nuclear family is also empathic, it's called a feedback loop.
Oh.
And if that emotion is not validated and that feedback loop is happening, this is how it was described to me a very, very long time ago, and I've used it ever since. Say you and I are sisters, right? And I'm empathic and you're empathic. And I go, "I'm mad at you." And you go, "Well, I'm mad at you." And then it's, "I felt that you felt that I felt that." And then you
Mm-hmm.
felt that I felt that you felt that I felt that. And then I felt that you felt that I felt that you felt that I felt that. And then I felt that you felt that I felt that you felt that I felt that. Next thing you know, 10 minutes later, you're just screaming at each other, trying to pull each other's hair out, right? And nobody knows. And then a parent comes in, maybe an energy sensitive parent, says, "How did this start?"
Why are the vibes all wrong in here?
Right? Those empathic children may genuinely not understand how the emotion became so convoluted,
Mm-hmm.
because most empaths, because they navigate the world with that emotion, and as children, they already know what you're feeling. And if they have not been validated and you have not been honest with them about what it is they're picking up, that trauma starts right there
Mm-hmm.
for their
No, that makes
entire
so much
life.
sense.
And this
That
is
makes
not,
so much
yeah,
sense.
this is not to shame parents. This is not to point, "Oh my God, parenting is all fucked up." I'm
But
not,
we do, but parenting tip, right?
but
Like,
parenting tip or
listen.
friend tip with children, or if you work with children, please be attentive to how they are telling you what they're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because their gift is in that language. And I've worked with people, I'll give a random example. I have worked with empathics that they're like, well, I've learned about energy. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you probably have. Where do you feel and where did it start? And they'll go, well, I feel like I didn't really know about emotion when I was a kid. And I'm like, yeah, but did you? Like, please tell me a story about your best friend. They will give themselves away. They give themselves away in the retelling of the story without even
Yeah.
realizing it.
I'm just thinking back to, little did we realize this was going to go into parenting, but kids, empath kids can pick up when their parents are fighting, even if the
Oh, yeah.
parents didn't. Even if you take it out into another room or whatever, like we can pick up on that. And I remember being a little kid and my parents going behind closed doors and me going, "Oh, that doesn't feel like love in there," right? Like, why are they
Right.
angry?
Yeah.
Why is everybody sad? What's going on?" And yeah, that validation piece is so important. And as an aware empath now, I've actually had a lot of fun practicing asking, is this what you're feeling? Like really specifically. The other day, as an example, I was having my empath partner do a tendril thing in my drink.
Mhm.
And it was the first time I'd asked him to do it. And I immediately got this little feeling in my belly of like, oh, this is silly. And I went, did that
Uh-huh.
feel silly to you? And he goes, yeah, a little bit. It was very cute because when we can, that's like I'm sure I'll soapbox about this in the empath episode, but as empaths, even if we can feel someone else's emotions, it's still important to bring it up, have a conversation, ask what's going on, and to not gaslight ourselves if we really do feel something being in the space that's not being said and someone is defending, like, no, nothing to look at here,
No, no.
which can come
Yeah.
from like, shame or fear, or I don't want to disappoint them with my feelings. But the earth sense on the flip side really needs to, or not earth sense, energy sensitivity really needs to make sure that they're asking, are you
Yes.
feeling this way?
Yeah.
Because I've known a lot of energy sensitives that will try to bridge that gap and make the guess. And they're often so totally, completely wrong because they can't taste what's really there. And
I
that's
love how you use
okay.
I love how you use the word taste, because it's fascinating to me. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. I kind of came out of the proverbial closet of being earth sense first fairly recently. I've always known about it, but because earth sense first is so rare, it really genuinely is very, very rare. Most of the time, if you know somebody with earth sense first, they probably just are a trifecta, like there is something different.
Hmm.
But that also means that I have heavily, heavily relied on I've learned to talk like energy sensitive. I completely admit that. I have used that language to be able to bridge the gap. And I say all the time to my empaths, I'm going to get it wrong. Please tell me and clarify for me if I have said something or if I've done something that offends you or hurts your feelings. I am not going to know.
Hmm.
I will have known something shifted, but I
But
don't
not
know if
what.
that means you're happy. I don't know if all of a sudden you have to take a poop in the bathroom. I don't know if it's irritation or I triggered a trauma from 40 years ago.
Right.
I will not know. I don't know the difference. There's a subtlety that empaths pick up on that I don't have.
It reminds me of LaCroix. I love making fun of like the LaCroix drinks and stuff that it's like the essence of. You don't get the full
Oh,
flavor, you get the essence of. Like
oh
an
yeah.
empath is drinking strong lemonade.
Oh
They
yeah.
know it's lemon.
Yep.
A energy sensitive is like drinking a LaCroix with like the tiniest hint of lemon and they're like, it it could be lemon maybe, but
Is
it
it
also could be
citrus?
this it's a citrus
It's
S flavor.
citrus, right? Like, is it tangerine, orange, or lemon?
Mm, it's the essence of a little bit, but it's so funny. You can, um, You can definitely start in conversation to see what people are when you really differentiate what language can be understood. Because,
Yeah.
for me, I have that unique experience of having an energy sensitive partner and an empath partner. And the empath partner does not get the energy language at all. I was trying
Nope.
to explain the electromagnetic field the other day and like how we have an aura and we can feel like maybe you can practice just feeling your own aura in a felt sense, like as a starter point, but you don't have to feel other people's energy, but you can work with your own, maybe. And
Maybe.
he's like, aura?
Uh,
Okay. I hear what you're saying. And an energy sensitive is like, feelers? I
feelers.
definitely don't have that.
Mm-mm. Or if you ask an energy sensitive, something that was very interesting that I kind of started really leaning into probably about 20 years ago was that I'd met enough energy sensitives that they would say, like, I would teach a class and somebody would go, that person was feeling me up. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I know what was happening. There was no intentional, like, invasiveness. Like, the person they were accusing of that was making them uncomfortable, that person's discomfort was real, right? I
Mhm.
didn't want to invalidate that, but and I probably did inadvertently several times. I'm apologizing to the universe right now, and all those individuals. But there is also, like, from what I was looking at, because I can see those feelers. I have no idea why I have that gift. I've never been able to explain it. I don't understand, but I can see those little buggers. And I did not get the impression from the way they were moving that they were being invasive or meaning to be hurtful or being too much. Because I can see when an empathic feeler gets a little too impatient and a little too aggressive. And there's a big difference. And that also led me to realize, well, those energy sensitives are picking up on those touchy feelers. They're picking up on
Mhm.
those tendrils. Not all of them seemingly, or they don't know that that's what they're picking up on,
Right.
right? But an energy sensitive does kind of know. And if you give them the language, they'll go, oh, yes, that. But I would
Yes.
never have said that, right?
Yep.
And then every empath goes, oh my God, am I doing that right now? I'm so sorry.
It's just, yeah, that was my first reaction when I was like, oh gosh, I do have feelers. I can tell. Oh no. And I'm like so conscious now to withdraw. And also knowing it's my gift and that's how I communicate on a subtle level, like
Yeah.
also giving myself permission to do it, but
Yes.
so gently. And I can start to feel if it's like immediately like, nope, they don't want me there. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Backing away. One of my friends who's energy sensitive described it as they can tell when an empath locks onto them
Mm,
because they can feel like all the attention in the room is on them all of a sudden. And then I've heard it described that when a energy sensitive puts their attention on you, it can feel like kind of energetic pressure pressing
pressure.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are just like different mechanics to get curious about, and we'll get into more detail. But well, I want us to make sure we get into Earth Sense. So Earth Sense can be either a booster
Mm-hmm.
with another gift, or it can
Yep.
be like you read that where that is the first gift, and then other stuff sources through it. And
Yeah.
I like to explain Earth Sense at its base as you know that the planet is a living, breathing entity. If I say that she's a living, breathing entity with feelings, and you go, huh? You
Right.
might not have Earth Sense. But if you're like, yeah, I could see that, or absolutely yes, then yeah, you very possibly do. I would say the Earth Sense
Or a
first,
booster.
definitely no. Right.
Right. So this is the intricacy of Earth Sense that I think is so nuanced and difficult to explain. It's very interesting. When I have conversations with others that have Earth Sense first, there is absolutely there's no barrier. I don't know how to explain it. It's like at the undercurrent of an out loud conversation, as long as our egos are out of the way, because that is very much a key piece, there's a subliminal telepathic something
Mm-hmm.
that Earth herself is a part of in
Mm-hmm.
the conversation. Like, there's a third person having a communication in our conversation, and we all feel it with each other. Earth Sense Booster is not that. Earth Sense Booster is something that you may or may not have a potentiality. I think of it like you're born in your meat suit, you have your foundational gift, you have your bio number, and off to the side, there's this beautifully wrapped package. It's a beautifully wrapped package, and it's your Earth Sense Booster potentiality. And if you want to, you can open the box. And when it comes to the description, I say things like, do you know that Earth herself is a sentient entity and she can communicate with us? And the potentiality of the box says, yeah, that's a possibility. Because you answered that really well. It was like, yes, this is a possibility. If you've opened the box, that is an emphatic yes.
Yeah.
Because
It's
you can't put
maybe or definitely.
because you can't put the lid back on the damn box.
Right.
If you do not have the Earth Sense potentiality, there's a huh? Like there's not even a box available anywhere in your realm.
Yeah,
There's
just
no
like Justin with the empathy and the I don't get the energy sensitivity. That's just not there, and that's okay. It's
and
okay
it's
to not have
okay.
these.
Oh my God, if that's the number one message you get out of this call, every gift is important and it's valuable and it's okay. And you're not missing anything if you don't have one or the other. You're not
Right.
missing anything because I have never had a guide tell me, I've never met somebody who has reached their full potential. There are so many potentialities and I don't even know what they are because I've never encountered all of them. So I can't even
Every entity that's
imagine.
ever been. Oh my
Right.
gosh. Yeah, and that's, the combinations of these. Again, you could be just an empath, you could be just an energy sensitive, you could have earth sense first, you can have empathy and energy sensitivity or empathy and earth sense or yeah,
So,
like
yeah. So, one of the things to know about how the booster works, it is not the same thing as having Earth Sense first,
mhm,
which is probably what's really confusing. And I apologize because even though I have Earth Sense first, I've only met maybe 50 people who have it in my whole life. That's not a lot. And I have traveled to other countries and been in many places in my life. So what Earth Sense Booster does is it takes, so you're just an empath. If you choose to open your little gift package, right? Your empathic gift will explode. As in the automatic potentialities compound. I had a friend of mine who's a quantum physicist. He went, so multiple dimensions. And I went, yeah, kind of. Because now you have access to Earth herself and her multidimensional self, which is apparently a thing. And where are the edge of those potentialities? I have no idea. But if you have that Earth Sense booster, you not only know Earth herself is a sentient being and you can communicate with her, but you'll feel her emotions. You will feel the plant's emotions. You might feel the animal's emotions. You might know there's an alternate dimensional entity living in your living room every spring and fall. Like you might not see them, right? You might not. I mean, there's just, I don't know where the edge of the potentialities are because, as my quantum physics friend said, aha, the multidimensional quantum explosion potentiality. But this is the other thing to know. This is not a warning. This is a reality of how Earth Sense Booster works and Earth Sense itself. Because trust me, I have definitely gotten this lesson a few times. If your ego gets in the way and you think you're going to use your gift for selfish means, there is like a default circuit breaker switch that turns the damn thing off.
yep.
You literally do not have access anymore.
Yeah.
And you can't bypass it. You will never ever find, and I'm going to risk it and say it, you will never ever find an empath who is using narcissistic tendencies that has access to their Earth Sense booster.
Yeah. We're going to get into the shadows of these gifts in their individual episodes for sure, but that is definitely a high level important one is if you are operating with your gifts for
Nefarious means whatever they
Nefarious
are.
means whatever they are, out of shame, fear, disappointment, whatever the reason may be. If you do have that booster, it's going offline, because Earth herself will not she does not give us permission to hurt each other with intention. Like,
Correct. She
we can
doesn't.
we can hurt each other accidentally, that's fine, but
Yeah.
intentionally,
No,
absolutely not.
she will
That's
not.
not
Mm-mm.
a part of the food chain, it's not a part of the ecosystem. That, like, extra hurt is just, it's
No.
extra hurt, and she's not
Nope.
here for that.
Nope.
So, just briefly touching back on trifecta. So trifecta
Mhm.
means you have all three gifts. I'm one of those people, and I don't recommend it. If you're signing up for a blueprint in another life, don't do it, because it gets very complex.
I,
Because it's
I,
all tangly.
yeah, it's tangly. It's messy. It can be, but I will say that I am leaning into a phrase that I don't know if it's true or not. So you can totally tell me if I'm way off base, Safi.
Sure.
But I suspect that trifectas are as close as you can get to Earth Sense first without having Earth Sense first if you are in if you've done a lot of the, I guess, the big work, like the shadow light work, you're in harmony
Mm-hmm.
with the subtleties of each of your gifts and what they bring to you, and you're online with all three equitably.
Yes, and that's interesting, because obviously, like, for me, we're are rare cases, right? I would
Yeah.
say there's lots of rare cases out there of different things, because there's so many unique
Yeah.
makeups. But my personal rare case is that I have a very equilateral triangle, and all of my gifts are kind of equally dispersed. Now, I've leaned into different ones at different points in my
Mhm.
life, which is what we do. But I think that that totally makes sense. Even if somebody did have, like, more energy sensitivity and, like, only a little bit of empathy and then a lot of earth sense, that if they can get all of them streamlined working,
Mhm.
it could feel like earth sense first. Um, when you've languaged around earth sense first, with me personally being a very equilateral triangle, with most, again, can't peel them apart, sometimes they're so fused,
Right.
but the earth sense first language makes sense to me,
Yeah.
because I've got that earth sense found. It's like my earth sense is my foundation
It
that the
can
other
be.
two are built on. So
Yeah.
that's my personal experience. But what's fun about this is to get to know yourself and how your
Yeah.
gifts show up and, like, what's happening, and get curious. Because again, it's not bad to be, quote unquote, just one of the gifts. That means that you're really good at that gift, and you can strengthen that, and you can build it into every area of your life. Like a person who has either been born without sight or lost their sight, who might
Oh
start to
yeah.
tune into their hearing more, or feeling vibration in their feet, or whatever it might look like, right? Like, we can really grow and expand with these gifts, whatever gifts we've chosen to have, and we chose to have them for a reason.
Yes.
My reason was literally, I will never forget in my blueprint download with you, Red. You were like, so you just kind of took all of the gifts that you possibly could in case you needed them one day. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a damn thing I do. Packing for a vacation, and I take 6 suitcases in case I need this thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's me to a T. So as we're winding down our time today, let's just circle back around to the impact of knowing this information and how this can help us move away from misunderstanding each other.
I think the big thing that I come back to all the time is, unfortunately, I think somewhere along the way, we lost the information, or we lost how to communicate the definitions of these gifts, because in our metaphysical community, it's like clairaudience, clairsentience, clair whatever, like all the clairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that, because I really, really tried to mash. Okay, so if maybe empaths are clear this, and maybe energy sensitives are clear this, and it never held water. That bucket's got way too many holes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that we keep hurting each other because we're not just accepting that some people are not empathic, some people are not energy sensitive. And when you're trying to shove all of these clear definitions on to or ignoring the baseline gifts, you're dismissing and hurting over and over and over again. Like we're constantly re-triggering each other. And it's okay to say there's only 3 gifts. It's okay. We don't have to make it more complex because it is already, with 3 baseline gifts, extraordinarily complex. We don't have to make it more. And I think that's probably one of the things that we do to each other is because there's 9 unacknowledged ways of looking at the world, we want to make it more rather than bringing it back to there are 3 gifts and they are complex. And that is okay.
Yeah. And to reemphasize that there are more nuances and there are more subtle gifts that come in, like telepathy and animal speak and all these other cool things. But we don't need all of those to communicate and get each other. We need these 3 foundations.
Yes, because you could have animal sense from an energy sensitive perspective, and that may or may not be coming from your earth sense booster. And you may or may not be getting the emotional quality in that communication. I know somebody, this was a big lesson for me many years ago. I totally put my foot in my mouth and swallowed that because I made an assumption. And I admit my assumption. And this is another thing that when you know what your gifts are, you can lean into, you know what, I fucked it up and it's okay. Mm-hmm. But this person was energy sensitive with animal speak, but had been heavily traumatized by an empath, but they did not have an earth sense booster. So the language they were using in communicating with their animals, they were asking the animals what they were feeling at that communication level and giving that information to others. And other people were assuming they were empathic. And what I did, which was extraordinarily harmful, and I spent quite a bit of time eating some humble pie, I said, you can't possibly know what they're feeling because you're not an empath. I harmed that person. I devalued them. And then I did the next worst horrible thing is I said, and you don't even have earth sense booster, so what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I genuinely hurt them. It was awful. I still feel horrible about that. I'm going to try really hard not to cry because that was a really humbling, it was extraordinarily humbling because my knowledge of what I know to be true was true. But that person had learned to use their animal speak to get the information needed to use their gift in such a profound healing way. And I hurt them.
Yeah.
And they had a huge gift to give. And I had to eat not only a lot of humble pie, but I had to apologize. And I had to basically okay, I am wrong. Teach me, show me, tell me, I promise. I honor you now, right? Like I had to really eat a lot of humble pie. That's a personal journey that I'm sharing with y'all into the world, but that's an example of how we can inadvertently not listen, not pay attention, and not honor how someone is using their gift because there are so many subtleties and different gifts that come through in different ways on top of the main gift. So I like how your partner, Justin, he said something about bio numbers or the operating system, right? And the apps or the programming is your gifts, but then what is the special features in your app? And those are those subtle gifts. That's like animal speak or dream walking or whatever those things are. You can buy or you can join the free Obsidian app, right? That gives you a baseline. But then if you pay $4.99, you get this other thing. I mean, we're not paying anything, but you know what I mean. Like,
yes.
yeah.
And there's no, like, there is no one size fits all. There is no one answer. There is no one right way to do things.
Nope.
And that's like the ultimate lesson in this, right? Is that, yeah, there sure are three basic ways. And then there's a trillion more advanced, individual, subtle ways that all of this shows up. And we just get to get curious about each other. That's,
Yeah.
I hope that this conversation has invited you to be curious about how other people are experiencing you, how they're experiencing other people in the world around them, and how they're kind of sourcing the essence or emotion or vibration or whatever they're picking up on as they are in space with you,
Yeah.
going about their life. So again, we will be back with more episodes getting
Mm.
really into the nitty-gritty. We'll have one episode on just empathy,
Just
one on
empathy.
just energy sensitive, and one on just earth sense. And then we'll probably come back and talk about the more nuancy trifecta stuff
Oh,
too.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you all are interested in that.
Yeah.
So as always, please feel free to let us know what you want us to talk about, what you're excited to hear us talk about, all of that good stuff, because we are here to serve and to
Yeah.
speak and to share and do what we can
Mhm.
do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. I love this. This is amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Red, as always, for sharing your wisdom. Thanks to everyone who listened. Don't hesitate to reach out. You know where to
Please
find us. So until next time, I'm Safrianna. This is my dear friend Red, and this is Breaking the Barriers.
breaking those barriers. Woohoo!
Bye for now, friends.